5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's what you've been waiting for. The Rebirth with your host, Shay Marriott. Let's go. And Eli Isabel. Philly Jamz 95.3 FM.
Eli Isabel, what's up, family? This is a Rebirth on Philly Jamz 95.3. Welcome to the show, y'all. As you can see, I'm rolling solo tonight. Almost. My girl is not in the building with us tonight. She's taking a little R&R tonight. But guess what? I got a special surprise for y'all tonight, man. Somebody I'm honored to be sitting here beside. And I'm gonna tell you the great thing about this brother before I introduce him. He's a bishop, right? But if you just sit and talk to him, you never know it. I've never felt like I couldn't be myself in his presence. I've never felt like I didn't learn something when I was around him or his lovely wife. Like, these are just laid-back people who know the word and are trying to uplift and save lives. And that is the thing that I appreciate the most about them. So tonight, who's going to be joining me, he didn't know he was going to be a co-host. He thought he was coming in here to get interviewed, which he will. But he going to co-host this thing with me tonight, y'all.
All right, well, I'm on board with that.
All right, y'all. So put your hands together, please, for Bishop Rob Lewis in the building.
Glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. Okay, yeah, that's my applause. Okay, it was a little late, but that's okay. I'll take it. So, yeah, it's an honor to be here. And,
thank you.
I was looking forward to being here with both you and Shay, but since Shay isn't here, that's all right. It'll just be a guys' night tonight, and I'll be the guest / co-host for you on this evening.
We need those nights sometimes when it's just the bros.
No doubt.
Just the fellas. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get into tonight's show, y'all, we're going to do our Right Here, Right Now segment / our Black History Moment. Jen, who is working the board tonight for Tosh. Jen, I like to have a little music in my ears. Is that a possibility tonight? That's just for me, for my spirit. It ain't got to be nothing in particular. It don't need to be Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, but something a little easy going to get me through my evening. I'll take that. So listen, y'all, tonight, as you know, every week, Rebirth does a Black History Moment. Since we are in Black History Month this month, tonight I'm going to talk about something that is local and should be near and dear to our hearts. And the reason I said that this is going to be a 2-for-1, simply because this is a right here, right now moment, and it's also Black History. I'm sorry, I'm messing around with Jen. I'm not prepared. Let me pull up my Black History fact right here. Bear with me. All right. Here we go, y'all. So tonight's Black History Moment and Right Here, Right Now combined into one. The Carlisle Fire Company in Milford, Delaware, has appointed its first African-American chief.
Wow.
His name is Sean Hinton. He is the first African-American chief in the department's 221-year history. Can you believe that?
And they're just appointing one now?
The first one now. This just happened a few weeks ago. So
I guess Milford's just coming into the new age, if you will. I guess they may be stuck back in the 60s before the Civil Rights Movement. And
I guess that must be Milford, Alabama. That's how they acting. Like, that's really crazy. So here's the even crazier part. The person who introduced him as a new fire chief is Milford's first Black mayor. Mayor Campbell. He was voted into office in 2018. He won again, so he is now in his second term as mayor of Milford. But he was the first African American mayor of this town, Milford, Delaware. So if you know anything about Southern Delaware, or I'm going to say this maybe central Southern Delaware,
what they refer to as lower, slower Delaware.
Lower, slower. It does. Things are a little different down there. However,
little different. Well, I live in lower, slower Delaware, down in the Smyrna area.
Okay.
Really laid back.
Who doesn't want that?
Look, I want it. I mean, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, so I want laid back living.
Night and day.
You know, I want to live somewhere where no one can just say, "Hey, I happen to be in the neighborhood, so I drive by."
No one's gonna do that. That takes effort.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. To get down to where we live, out on the farm.
Yes. So, hey, listen. So let me finish this up, then, because I want to touch on that too. So that's tonight's Black History Fact, man. Let's give a big shout out and applause to Memphis' first black fire chief and mayor. And that is your Black History moment for tonight.
Got to give him some props, man. I mean,
Amen.
look, the first in 221 years.
That's
so
insane.
you have a 221-year history and not one person of color in authority with the fire company or chief.
So I think that coincides also with there probably haven't been a black mayor who appoints those positions, if you think about it.
Yeah, good point.
So
there. Very good point.
no white mayor is going to appoint a black man to run the fire company or the police department. Probably down there.
Down there.
Down there. Yeah. So I think that all coincides. So just awesome Black history. And furthermore, in my retirement stage, in another 10, 15 years, I plan to move to Southern Delaware.
Okay, well, where are you now?
I'm in Elkton.
Okay.
Which is the Southern Delaware of the North. However, I want to get down near closer to the beach.
I heard some things about Elkton, man. I look.
Well,
I'm not gonna say anything bad about where you are.
It's all good.
Yeah, you know.
I've been there 15 years. I've knock on wood. I've never had one problem.
Okay, all right. Well, that's great.
Yeah. I'm the one that creates the ruckus in the neighborhood.
Oh, so they're trying to get you out.
They think they are, but they call. I had the HOA call on me once or twice, but don't be parking in front of my yard.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be parking. I can't back my truck is long. If you parking right there, it's clear, no parking signs. And then I back out. I'm gonna put a note on your car.
Okay. Well,
So then people complain about my notes because they're not nice notes. They nicey.
Well, the question is, are they parked in a spot they shouldn't be in?
They absolutely are.
Okay. All right. Well, you can do it with love, man. You can be firm and get your point across, but do it with love.
But black firm is different from white firm. People take it the wrong way.
They take it the wrong way. I agree.
It's like a different, and it's like a text. You don't really know the intention of how they feel, but you see all them caps in that bold print. You know what I'm saying? Get from behind my daggone yard. Y'all, let's get into tonight's show, man. We have Bishop Rob Lewis in the building. Bishop Lewis is the pastor of Transformation Christian Worship Center right here. Where are you guys located?
We're located in Bear, Delaware.
Okay.
We had to change up some things when the pandemic hit. So we're meeting every first and third Saturday in person, but we're online every single Sunday.
Okay.
You can check us out on Facebook Live. You can also go to our website at transformedbyfaith.live.
All right.
You can see us on YouTube. Look, man, we're all over the World
Everywhere.
Wide Web, the world.
I heard
the
that.
World.
I want you to make sure you repeat that again before we get up out of here.
Oh, no
because
problem.
we want the
No
people to
problem.
know where to find you and your lovely wife. You just said something right there. You said first and third Saturday. Growing up as a kid, my church back home was first and third Sunday.
Really?
We twice a month. And when I came out here and joined the church and found out I had to go every Sunday, I was like, what in the tomfoolery?
Well, hopefully we're looking to build back up because this is post-pandemic strategies, if you will, because a lot of people are still not attending regularly in person like they did prior to the pandemic. Not just small ministries are experiencing that type of challenge, but also even the larger ministries. And I have some covenant brothers who have larger ministries, and they've experienced those challenges in getting people back. But it's also an opportunity where we can increase our social media presence.
Okay.
And what we recognize, there are going to be some people who just never come back to the church physically, but watch this, they will connect with you online.
Right. Amen.
They'll connect with you online. And what I found is that we have people that will consistently show up on Sundays for what we call the weekend word experience. They'll show up consistently there more so than they will in person. And then there are people who've shown up on there who have never physically come to the church, but they'll sow into the ministry. They'll encourage us in the ministry. So, we're looking to increase the presence. We understand there may be just we may have an online campus, if you will.
Okay, nice. What would you tell someone who is looking for a church home, or how would you persuade them to come and check out your church? What would you say to somebody who's out there just church hopping?
Yeah, well, someone that's church hopping, well, first and foremost, you need to, seek God. You need to pray about where God wants you to be. Although I believe everybody should be at the Transformation Christian Worship Center, everyone won't be there. So our mission really is to win souls to the kingdom, getting people introduced to who Jesus Christ is, so they can receive salvation, and we assist them the best that we can. We would love for them to come to be a part of our ministry, so that they can get into the discipleship program, growing in their spiritual walk, so that they can help others to do the same. But if, in fact, all we do is introduce them to Christ so that they receive him as their personal Lord and Savior, and they connect with the Bible, believe in Bible teaching church, then we're satisfied and fulfilled in doing that as well. But I say, hey, just come on, check us out. Come on to the Weekend Word Experience on Sundays. Check us out every first or one of the first or third Saturdays. We're going to love up on you. Make sure when you come, you let me know that you heard about the ministry through the Rebirth broadcast.
Okay. Yes.
We're going to when people come to our ministry, the culture is this. You're going to feel warm, welcome, wanted, and worthy, because you have no idea what people are experiencing prior to them coming into the building. And when my life got into this pathway of transformation, when I first reconnected, because I'm a fourth generation pastor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fourth generation pastor, and grew up in the church, but got away from it when I went to college, just started doing my own thing, buck wild and the whole nine. And years later, ended up coming back to the foundation of what had been established in me all of those years growing up. And when I reconnected with the ministry, man, it was just simple things that made me want to continue to come back. There were people that just gave me hugs. I needed those hugs. There were people that said things that were encouraging. Like there was a part of the service where they would take a break and say, hey, greet somebody with the love of Christ that you didn't come here with. And I came back every week just for that.
Wow.
Because that's what I
powerful.
needed.
Yeah.
It was powerful. It was so powerful that initially I made it a part of what we did in our ministry. And because of the love that was shown toward me and people loving me through the challenges that I had at that time, it was just imperative that the culture that we established at our ministry was one in which when you come through those doors, you're going to feel warm, welcome, wanted, and worthy. And we've even had, we had one individual years ago, they joined the ministry just based upon their encounter with one of our partners in the parking lot.
Wow.
So before you even meet me, you're going to meet me.
Okay, the representatives are out there.
Exactly. You'll meet me before you even physically meet me, because we have that type of church family where they epitomize or they represent that culture that we've established, that culture that God placed in my heart that he wants to have part of the fabric of the Transformation Christian Worship Center.
You know what? So this is the first time you and I have actually talked. Now, your wife has been on here with us a couple of times. But the one thing for me, by listening to your wife and telling a little bit about y'all's story, that I don't get from some pastors or bishops or whoever, whatever their title may be, you guys don't present as holier than thou and without problems.
Well, I think that's
know what I mean?
Yeah,
To
I
me,
know exactly what
so
you mean.
speak to that a little bit about. I think that's the way to bring people in, to me.
No, it is. When I came up in an apostolic context growing up, so anyone who knows anything about the apostolic faith, it was very restrictive. It was everything that you did, you were going to hell. You went to those movies, you going to hell. You got that fingernail polish on, you know you're going to hell, right? Or you wearing all that makeup, you are going.
You're taking me back
to hell, right? So everything you did, you were going to hell. One of the things that I think didn't turn me off, but discouraged me, because I love God, I wanted to serve God, but based upon the context in which he was being presented, I never felt I was worthy to serve God. So it was almost as if it was it was being presented in a way in which you had to get yourself together
first. Yeah.
But the reality is, if I could get myself together first, then I wouldn't need Christ.
Yeah.
So what I made an intentional effort. It was two things. When I knew I was called to ministry when I was 13 years old. I knew I was called to pastor at that time. But because of my experience and because of the type of preachers I saw coming up, I never envisioned myself doing it that way. But then God exposed me to some different things and showed me that there were more ways in which I could minister or fulfill the office that he had ordained for me to walk in.
Right.
So the two things that I had purpose to do was, one, I was going to be transparent. I was never going to present this air or this front as if I had it all together. Because the reality is none of us has it all together.
Right.
And even now, although I've grown and I've matured in the things of God and in the Word of God, which is why I'm a senior pastor at this time, I still have deficiencies. I still have those areas of my life that I'm still continuing to work on.
Right.
I'm still perfecting. I'm still maturing those areas. And as long as we're here in this world, in this flesh, we're going to always be working on something. Yeah. So therefore, what I do is I don't talk about what we can't do, because if you came up in the same type of context I came up in, it was always a discussion about what you couldn't do.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, the whole
Absolutely.
restrictive thing. So now what I do is I talk about what we can do. So it's a totally different concept. I don't spend a whole lot of time talking about sin. What I do is I talk about the things that hold us back from progressing, the things that hold us back from growing, the things that separate us from receiving God's best in our lives. But it's not about berating people. It's about challenging them.
So how did you change your mindset? Because you grew up, I'm assuming we're in the same age group, hit or miss.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm a little above your peer group, but we in the 50s.
Okay, all right. So how did you change your mindset from going, because the pastors, we heard, like you said, everything is about sin. What you shouldn't do, was very restrictive. So how did you evolve to the point where you got away from that particular, that being your only mindset? Like how the older pastors or preachers would be.
Well, what my experiences. So it was exposure and experience. So God allowed me to be exposed to different ministries. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I learned was what you understand, nobody can take away from you. And what you understand, you will apply to your life. And when you start to get results from the things that you apply to your life, now it becomes real for you.
Right.
So in times past, when you're talking about what I can't do, but you're not equipping me with the principles that I need so that I can make it relevant to my life and apply it to my life situation so that I can get victory in those areas, so I can get growth in those areas. So through the exposure to different ministries and the methodologies in which they use, it opened up my mind to understand there was a different way to do it. Right. And it was a context that fit me so that I could be effective in what God had called me to.
Right. So let me touch on this. I know growing up, my pastor, the man who baptized me, God bless the dead, Reverend White. I was 12 years old. He had a full-time job. He was a welder. Mm-hmm. And he was our pastor, but he had a full-time job. He wasn't highly educated. Mm-hmm. But he brought a lot of lives. We saved a lot of lives, brought a lot of people to where they wanted to be with their walk with Christ. Why are we having so many people today? It seems like you have to have all of these PhD in this. You have to be a doctor in this to be a pastor. When did that come to be? Like, I remember a time when people were called to minister.
Right.
And now you have to go to school almost to minister.
Well, let me say this. I think that there are certain denominations that put a big emphasis, or certain ministries and or denominations who put a great emphasis on getting the masters in theology and doctorates in ministry and theology, PhDs, etc. But what I know, man, is that either you're called or you're not.
Right.
You're called or you're not. If God has called you to it, then he's going to give you what you need in order to be successful in it. Now, that being said, I am not a guy who is against education.
Right.
Because I have plans to go back to get a master's, to get a doctorate, etc. But it's not to qualify me. It's to enhance the anointing and what I'm doing already. So the more that I grow, the more that I know, if I don't put a lid or a cap on who I am in my growth, then there's not going to be a lid or cap on on others that I'm ministering to or who are part of our ministry.
Right, right.
So, but in terms of, to answer your question, when that came about, I think it's something that was real heavy in the Baptist context, that they wanted their pastor to have certain levels of education, so forth and so on. And then I think that those that came out of the Baptist context that have started their own ministries that may be non-denominational, that may have been some of the things that they took with them because they saw a benefit in it. But it's not necessary, but I do encourage people to learn as much as you can about the Bible, not just the Bible, but also reading other materials that are going to help you to be effective in ministry. So, for example, the elephant in the room, so to speak, that we don't really dance around, especially in this cancel culture, is the whole LBGTQ.
Okay, let's talk about that.
All right, so we really dance around that particular thing, and I have to admit, I have to say that over the years, the body of Christ has not done a sound job. Let me just call it what it is. We haven't done a good job at all in really loving and ministering to that demographic. It doesn't matter what your situation. Okay, you're lesbian. Well, God loves you and He wants to have a relationship with you. I'm bisexual. Well, God loves you and He wants to have a relationship with you. What I understand is, just like my life was transformed, anyone else's life can be transformed, and it was transformed through the love of Christ. It wasn't anything else. I told you it was that love that I experienced that kept me coming back. And the more I came back, the more I heard. The more I heard, the more my belief system started to change. And when my belief system started to change, my thinking started to change. And when my thinking started to change, then what was demonstrated in my life started to change as well. So the thing is that if the issue comes in and there's some people who have different schools of thought regarding it, there are those who still want to, once again, you're going to hell.
Right.
Now, I don't want to get into a whole theological discussion here because that would probably take up the whole time that we're here. But what I understand is that if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus, believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, the Bible says that you're saved. All right. So now you have the capacity from a spiritual standpoint to start to understand and discern spiritual things, which is the Word of God, because once you receive Him, the Bible also lets us know that old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. That's your spirit.
Right.
So now your spirit has been renewed to be able to understand the things of God. And you sit up under that word and you study it, you meditate on it. It becomes a part of who you are, and change is inevitable. Transformation is inevitable, but it's something that's going to be a process. So if someone has been participating in a particular lifestyle, let's not even use the LBGTQ. Let me use me. I participated in a lifestyle, it's multiple women, it's drinking, it's getting high, it's all of these different things, really riotous living, things that were glorified.
Right.
Coming up. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Not understanding that I was tearing myself down, not only physically, but also tearing myself down spiritually. So I was dead spiritually until I rededicated my life to Christ, and then things started to come alive for me. I started to have a greater understanding of the word based upon where He had placed me, and that exposure had caused such a significant change in my life that I realized it doesn't matter who you are, what you're dealing with, what you're going through, you can experience victory and transformation in your life.
So let's go back, since we're on the LGBTQT plus community, and this is
all of those.
All of those things right there. Let's go back a step.
Okay.
The black church, and I'm going to say the black church because that's been my only experience.
Got you.
Why has sex been so taboo in the black church? Like, we don't, like you said, well, that's what God said. Read the Bible. The Bible didn't, but we're still living in reality. We still are people with wants and needs, and we tell our kids that, we have them going to church every Sunday, and we don't talk about sex with our children. Why is the black church so against talking about sex and being real about it?
That is a very good question that I really don't have an answer to. And the reason why is because that's something that has never been taboo for me.
Right.
Now, in the context of growing up, and it appears that you and I grew up in the same type of ministry context.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. There weren't. Let me say this. There weren't any true in-depth discussions about it, and it appeared that people were afraid to share their experiences as it relates to that area, for fear of them being judged or looked at as not really being saved or holy or righteous,
right,
if you will. So I think that that's why it was so taboo, is that they just didn't. That wasn't something that was done. It appeared like that was off limits for whatever reason. Even when you talk about marriage counseling back then, you might receive something like, well, look, the grass isn't greener on the other side, and if you just water the grass on your side, and then that grass will be green there, and you'll be happy. That's not telling me
marriage
anything.
counseling. It's over. That's the end of the session.
That's it. And no one is digging into the true. It's no different. It's no different than you say sex was taboo, but so was mental health issues.
Well, that was taboo for us as a race.
As a race, yeah. So back, it was always passed off. That's a demon. And everything,
everything was a demon when I was a kid. You're laughing too much. He got the laughing demon. Like, how's everything a demon?
Yeah. So we looked at it as demon. Now, I'm not here to suggest that is not some type of spiritual struggle, but some of it is physiological. Some of it is based on trauma that needs to be addressed. Some of it is based on some exposure to some things that they weren't ready for, and it created something within them, and that what was created is now manifested in the behavior.
Right.
So you know it like I know it, because we're pretty close in age group, is that going to a therapist, talking about sex, dealing with mental health issues, it was just, he crazy.
Yeah.
She crazy. And no one really wanted to deal with it. Or let me say this, I don't know if it was a matter of them not wanting to deal with it. We just didn't know how.
Right. And we had this long-standing thing where we don't put people in our business.
Right.
What happens in this family stays within this family.
And there's all kinds of dysfunction and trauma that's taking place behind closed doors. And then you wonder why is this kid this way? Because look at his parents. Her parents, they're just, but what you don't recognize is the parents have issues. They've just been keeping those issues under wraps because of that saying, what happens in this household stays in this household. We don't talk to anybody about it. Well, that's fine as long as you're getting the help that you need for the issues that are within that household. So, that's one of those things, man. Those kinds of issues, talking about sex freely. I mean, I love my father. My father's still living. That's my hero. But I remember when I first started high school, and the conversation he had with me, or should I say he tried to have with me regarding girls and sex and the different things. I understood what he was saying, but I could tell it was uncomfortable for him. So for me, and my wife would tell you, when our kids were younger, we would sit down at the table and we would talk about everything. I'm talking about sex. Are you thinking about it? If you are, what are your thoughts regarding it? We would give life experiences. We would talk about we were just open about the whole sex issue, because they're going to hear it from somebody.
Yeah, and that information most of the time is wrong.
It is wrong because that's where we got our information.
Exactly.
So we didn't get the in-depth information regarding sex from our parents. At least I didn't.
Right. No.
So what happens is now when your boy rolls up and he's got that Hustler magazine that he got from out under his father's bed or out of his stash.
The VHS tapes.
You got exactly. You got these several young kids all gathered around this magazine trying to look and see what's going on in the magazine, and that's your exposure, and that's giving you a distorted view
off the top
what sex is supposed to be about. And when you look at things such as pornography, it's proven that pornography is a gateway to a lot of different violent crimes and dysfunctions within people. Like, what was that guy's name? Oh my gosh, the good-looking serial killer Ted Bundy. He was the attorney, good-looking guy. He was a serial killer, and they interviewed him. And one of the things he said was a trigger in him becoming what he became was he watched a whole lot of porn.
Wow.
Yeah.
I should be under the jail from back in the day.
Let me tell you something.
Only God has me sitting here today, then.
I'm telling you, God has covered me. Now, it doesn't have the same effect on everyone, but it does have that kind of impact. It has a psychological impact on people. Now, his is an extreme one, and there are others who have had that same extreme behavior or behaviors. But for us, for me, it manifested in different ways. It manifested in my appetite and how I viewed women.
You know what's weird? Like you was just saying how your father, at least you had your dad around to have the even though it was uncomfortable. Imagine trying to have that conversation with your mother. My dad wasn't around. So my mother, I remember I remember being 14 and I didn't know at the time, but I had a hernia in my groin.
Okay.
So I was telling my mother, I say, something's not right. Like, I need to go to the doctor, and it was really hurting me. And she was like, well, let me see. I was like, I can't let you see it. It's like, damn, you know. She's like, boy, I didn't see. I'm like, Mama, I can't.
How old were you at the time?
14.
Oh, yeah.
This woman made me pull my pants down to look at it, and she touched it. I was like,
this is uncomfortable.
This is very uncomfortable. Like, my mother's looking at me. You know, I know you see me, but I was a baby. It's just very strange. So at least you had your dad around to kind of guide you somewhat.
Right.
Through that process, but getting that information or trying to have that conversation with a woman is the weirdest thing ever.
But you know what's interesting?
For me, it was.
For you, is it? But here's the interesting thing about it. I had those kind of open, comfortable conversations with my mother,
but not your dad.
But not my dad. I had that one conversation with him that time. My father and I became really close the older I became.
Okay.
Because he was more of the disciplinarian type of guy. My mom was the more, she was a disciplinarian, but she was more the nurturing and open. And I just felt more comfortable coming to her, talking about whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know, sex, girls, letting her know what's going on with me, sharing information with her openly. But I ain't have her, you know, at 14, I don't know if I'm ready to drop my drawers.
I was not ready.
Let her see my y'all mean.
Did you come from a large family? Like a lot of kids?
Four kids, 3 boys, 1 girl. The family, when you're talking about our cousins and relatives and stuff like that, then yes, we have a pretty large extended family from that standpoint. But in the household, 3 boys, 1 girl.
So the crazy part about what made it uncomfortable for like your dad and probably my uncles or whoever, these jokers had a lot of kids. So you had a lot of sex, but you couldn't talk about it.
Right.
That was the crazy part.
Well, that's what I had going on, and I found out years later, man, because I wanted to find out, why is it that I was the way I was? What was this? Why did I have this seem like uncontrollable, unquenchable desire to just be with all these different women?
Right.
And then come to find out, it's like my uncles, my grandfather, even my dad at one point in time in his life, it was one of those things where they were playboys, players. They just had a lot of women, and like you said, having a lot of
and
sex
that was
all
celebrated.
over the place.
It was not frowned upon at all, like from other men.
From other men, it wasn't.
Yeah,
and but that's the problem.
Yeah, that is a problem.
That's the problem. The problem is that you don't have enough men stepping up and saying, "Look, man, what are you doing to yourself?"
Right.
You know, we're glorifying something that should not be glorified, and because it was glorified, and it was like a badge of honor or like a rite of passage, and you know, you're the man if you have all of these different women,
right?
And play, because when I came up, and even going into my marriage, the way I lived my life prior to even going into my marriage was you always had your main girl,
right,
but you always had a side piece or two, whatever it is that you can handle. So the thing is that I could have my main girl, but I could have 2 or 3 other chicks on the side.
Right.
And whenever it got close, whenever it came close where they were going to blow up or I thought they were going to blow up the spot, they got cut off. and then enter someone else.
Right. It was a revolving door.
It was a revolving door. Exactly.
Here's the thing I think that we didn't get maybe. I know we're older now, so we get it. But I had a homie right before he got ready to get married. This is 20 years ago. He was like, yo, I'm getting ready to cut everybody off. I'm like, dude, you get married in a week. You should have like been kind of working on this process.
Oh, man.
I said, you cutting them off physically not going to be with you, but emotionally they ain't going nowhere
They're
right away.
They're not going anywhere. And
you
not only emotionally, but there's still this spiritual tie, this connection.
Right.
And let me say this, that wasn't my experience like up to the week. so to speak.
He
But it was
held
close.
it down. He ran it out to the end.
It was close. But what happens is that who you are is what you're going to bring into that marriage. You are.
I agree.
A lot of people, and I was one of them. I thought that when I got married, and everything would change just because I got married.
Yeah. I think we tell ourselves that in order to get married.
In order to get married. You know what?
Yeah.
Once I get married, I'm going to stop running to women. I'm going to stop living this particular way. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing that. When the reality is, who you are is what you bring into the marriage, and who you are is what's going to be lived out in that marriage.
Wow.
And that's what happened with me. So although I was getting married, I was not prepared for marriage because I was not a husband.
Right.
So I may have been in the office of a husband once I said I do, but I was not a functioning husband. And one of the reasons why is because, one, here's what's interesting, Eli, is that I had a great example in my father and my mother. They've been married for almost 60 years now.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. That's awesome.
Married for almost 60 years now.
Wow.
I saw what a good marriage looked like. I saw how my father treated my mother well, how he took care of her, how he was loving, attentive, and all of those different things there. But because we didn't have those conversations, like we said, about the sex and about the different things. So I saw the finished product, but I didn't know how to make it that way.
How did they get there?
How did they get there?
Yeah.
How did they work through their different challenges? Can you give me some examples of when you guys had fallouts, if you had financial issues, if there were infidelity issues, if there were other things that were going on in the marriage? How did you guys work through those challenges? I see what it looks like, but if I don't have an idea on how to work it and make it look that way, then I'm only left with what it looks like. I just have a picture, but no idea as to how to develop that picture.
And that's called, back in the day, stay out of grown folk business.
Exactly.
When it could be actually a helpful tool to you. But our parents and people, they were just so guarded with everything. And so which is really, really crazy. So how long have you been married now?
25 years.
Wow.
25 years this past October the 24th.
Did you, so I know, that's right, applaud for that.
Yeah, clap for that one, because I didn't know we were going to make it.
Let me ask you this question right here. When you, so I'm in year, let me get it right. I'm in year 19.
Okay, you still an OG up in this thing.
But getting married, like when I got married, I didn't think I'd be married this long. I didn't even know. I knew at that moment that I wanted this woman, but because of what I did prior to getting married, I figured at some point I'd get back to that because that was fun.
Well, see,
in my immature mind,
right? But in my
I'm saying in my immature mind,
in my mind, I had the total opposite thought was because I'm getting married, I'm going to stay married, and that's what's going to change me.
Okay, and
even though I didn't find out until I started getting into it, and I talk about that in the book as well.
And let's touch on that next. Finish your point though. What were you about to say?
So the thing is that I actually thought that it was an immature way of thinking, man, and it's crazy when I look back on it. I'm like, what would have made you think that it was going to be any different just because you got married? Like saying I do was going to be the catalyst for my life change.
That's the coldest Jedi mind trick that a man plays on himself.
Yes, he does.
Ever.
Yes, it is.
I think we've all done it.
Yes, it is. No, we've all done it. There are men still doing it. They're still doing it. They're still doing it. Even as we speak right now, there's someone's going to get married this week.
Wow.
Who said the same thing to themselves.
Yeah, when I get married, I'm be done with all that.
I'm done with all these women. I found the one, so forth and so on. And watch it. She may be the one, but are you the one?
Ooh, child.
She may be the one, but are you the one for her? Because we don't know, and this is getting back to what I was saying earlier, is that I didn't know what a husband was. So the power to define is the power to fulfill. So if I don't know what a husband is, how can I fulfill the office of one?
Right, absolutely.
So like I said, I knew what it looked like. I just didn't know what it took to be a husband.
You ever ask somebody, then I want to talk about your book. You ever ask somebody, like, either when you were about to get married? I remember being, getting ready to get married, and I'm talking to older guys, and I'm saying, what's it like to be married? And the cliche answer, marriage is what you make it. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's just so generic, isn't it?
And then that's the answer they leave you with, and you're supposed to, like, take that and do something with it. Like, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah. I got that one. I would ask guys, getting married, or I'm or guys who say, you're getting ready to get married. It's like, oh, okay, you want to stop having sex, huh? Because everybody talks about how when you get married, it's different. As soon as you say I do, she gonna switch up on you. And let me say this: it's true to a certain degree.
I'm glad you said it first.
To a certain degree. I don't care. Look, I ain't trying to bash no women out there, but the truth is the truth. I mean, if we're gonna keep it a bean, let's keep it a bean. And when you get married, stuff shifts. Like for instance, I remember, my wife was just so loving and caring prior to us getting married. Then once we got married, if there was a disagreement or I wanted to do something she didn't want me to do or whatever the case may be, and she would just hit me with I am your wife, Robert. I am your wife, Rob. Like she couldn't say, and the way she said it with such authority. Like because, and here's the reality. She was right, because she is my wife. There's a certain weight that she can walk heavy in that office. Right. She can walk heavy in our relationship because she's my wife. And what happens is, man, a lot of these women out here, they're blowing it. They're missing out. They're giving out wifely benefits without the covenant. Without the covenant. And I see this happening a lot of times, Eli, is that you'll have women who they say, well, I'm wifey and that's my husband and so forth and so on, and don't have paper to first to solidify it.
That's real talk.
And they set themselves up for so many bad things when that happens.
Yeah.
If you're with a man, let me say this. This may hurt some feelings if you've been with a man for an extended period of time, and that man hasn't talked to you about marrying you, or you guys have discussed marriage and he says, okay, we'll get married, you're living together, you got bills together, you got all of these things, you've been together for 7 years and he still hasn't married you, you're not the one. He doesn't want to marry you. He don't want to marry you.
Yeah, some feelings are going to be hurt behind that one.
Yeah. If the man has not, a guy, all right, you can confirm this or not.
Yes, okay.
When a guy knows he wants to be with a particular woman, then he's going to do everything that he feels he has to do to be with that woman. The guy, when he knows, he knows.
He knows. I was married a year and a half
later.
later.
Take you 7 years. And it doesn't take you 7 years to know. I got married within a year after meeting my wife.
Right. And we started out long distance, and we made it work.
It pissed off some people, but nonetheless, that's what happened.
You did it your way.
I did it my way. And the thing is that was interesting, my wife is probably just hearing this for the first time. I know she is. There were a couple of women who asked me, why her and not me?
Wow. And you said.
We're getting Ted. I'll talk to my wife about that. No. The thing is that, all right, we were talking about, before we came on air, we were talking about this show, and I'm late to the party with this show, Sisters.
Okay.
All right.
On BET.
On BET.
Okay.
And I don't know if the audience is familiar with that show, but there's a character on there that reminds me of me, minus the legal issues, and his name is Zach. Okay. So Zach was with this girl who he loved and loved him, but it was a toxic relationship.
Right.
And whenever things went wrong, she would berate him. She would talk down to him. She would put him down. It was like she would tear him down with his words, with her words. And he always was trying and trying to get better, but he was missing the mark. And every time he missed the mark, he would get beat down. Well, wow. They would break up, get back together, break up, get back together. And finally, when they broke up, he met this other chick. Mm-hmm. Now, this woman was speaking life into him. Wow. Telling him what he could do. I believe in you. You got this. I know you can do this. No. You're that person. You can make this happen. You're that dude. So it was totally a 180 from what he was accustomed to, and he just gravitated toward that woman.
Absolutely.
Right. So what he recognized is that although I love this other woman, this woman, I can't be with her because this one is the one who's going to build me up. This is the one that's going to allow me to make mistakes and not beat me down when I make the mistakes. And the thing that separated my wife from my previous relationships is that I had the room to fail.
Wow.
I had the room to make mistakes. I wasn't made to feel like I was a loser or a failure when that happened.
And why don't and I've been told by the boss I need to hurry up, move forward, and get to your book. But really quick, just take 1 minute if you can. How come? Why do you think most women don't understand that? Like what you pour into a man, and vice versa. But what you pour into a man is often what you will get out of him. Why don't? Maybe I should ask the women in the room that question.
Well, I think it's because, let me say this in defense of women. For the most part, every jacked up woman is the product of a jacked up man.
That is true. That's true.
As it germane to relationships.
Right.
Not every case, but in most cases, because I don't like to speak in absolutes like that.
Right.
So in most cases, so therefore, when that woman sees she hasn't dealt with the trauma or the hurt of past relationships, and if let's say she gets in a relationship with you now. So if there's anything within your character or anything within your behavior that even shadows that, it's going to bring all of those things. It's going to trigger her, and she's going to respond not based on you, but based on the hurt and the trauma that had never been addressed previously. Therefore, now you don't get the edifying speech, you get the corrupt speech that's going to tear you down.
And that's a word right there.
Yeah.
Bishop, let's get into the book.
Okay. Everything that we've been talking about sets this up.
Okay. So what inspired the Covenant CEO?
Well, what inspired the Covenant CEO was my journey. The journey that I had, a lot of what we've talked about right now. I had become, through a lifestyle, a man that was not prepared for marriage, or really a man that was not prepared to really take on a lot of life's responsibilities. So what I had to recognize, my marriage, man, I told you we've been married 25 years, but the first, I say 8 to 10 years. Yeah, my wife was looking at me crazy. Yeah, maybe not the 10 years. I'm going to say at least the first 8 years.
Okay.
She's saying 7, I'm saying 8. So the first 8 years were very, very frustrating.
Right.
When I say challenging, that was an understatement. I was a serial cheater. A serial cheater. And watch this, even after I rededicated my life to Christ initially, the behaviors didn't stop.
Right.
And one of the things that, and even in that, let me say this, because I started going to therapy to really try to get to the bottom of why I was the way I was. And what I learned was, this is something that I had become over the course of years. So one of those things is, although I had a great example of my parents being in front of me,
right,
the guys that I roll with, I got my sex talks and conversations from the old heads on the block.
Right.
Looking at how they rolled, and then looking at how my peers rolled, and I just started to emulate what they did, not really understanding that that was not the proper way to go about doing it. So therefore, the main girl and the multiple side chicks, and that's just the way that I lived for so many years. So it created so much dysfunction within me that I was unaware of as it relates to relationships. So now enter my wife, who I'm into. She's into me. We're loving one another, and it's like, okay, let's go ahead and get married. We get married, and in my mind, I'm saying, okay, I wanted to wait to get married, but let's call it what it is. She was pressuring me, man. She was pressuring me, man.
That's what they do.
That's what they do, man. She was turning the screws to me. You know how it gets. It's all good, and then after a while, it's like, I can't continue to do this like this anymore.
We're living in sin.
I need more. And I have a blended family, so she has, some 2 young daughters, and it's like, I want to set a good example for the children.
She hits you with all the main ones right there. You couldn't get around that.
Couldn't get around that stuff. So in my mind, my thing was, well, I'm going to marry her anyway.
Right.
So let's just go ahead and push this thing up instead of waiting. And that was probably the worst decision that I made, not to be with her.
Right, the timing.
But the timing of everything, getting married when I did, because neither one of us, truth be told, was ready to get married. But I don't want to talk about her, and I don't want to talk about women. I'm going to keep the focus on what the book is about, which is men.
Right.
And what I recognize is that it didn't matter whose fault it was, what was going on in the relationship or in the household. As the husband, as the male, the man in the house, it was my responsibility to create an atmosphere that was our culture of love, leadership, and stability.
Mm-hmm.
So I recognized I was derelict in my duty. So what I do is that in the book is I compare the responsibility of a chief executive officer. I use business examples or lingo to kind of bring home the importance or the gravity of responsibility that the man has as a husband and a leader in his household. And I can assure you that any marriage that is failing, I'm going to make an absolute here. Okay. No, I'm not going to make it an absolute, almost absolute.
Okay.
Where you see a failing marriage, you'll see a malfunctioning man.
In every case?
Yes.
There's a malfunction with the man.
There's a
failing marriage.
Where you find a struggling marriage, there is a malfunctioning male. Now hear me out.
Okay.
I am not suggesting that the woman may not be the catalyst. But I also believe that if proper leadership is provided, it doesn't matter. If you can lead, cast vision, get your wife on board with the vision, because every woman, believe it or not, every woman who's married, they want to be led. It's just that they don't see the leader that they need to see. They don't trust that you're going to take them where they need to be taken, and that somehow, somewhere along the way, they're looking for you to stumble and mess it up, and they don't want to take that fall with you.
Wow.
They don't want to take that fall with you. So normally, there's several reasons as to why marriages may fail. And you're a therapist, so you may hear some of these things. One, finances.
Yes.
Finances, infidelity, dealing with the children. So those to me are three big ones. But if there's proper leadership, in vision casting, then you can take your marriage from a faltering enterprise to a successful entity. And what I do is I share my dysfunction, how my dysfunction impacted the marriage. I talk a little bit about the state of the marriage, but I also talk about the principles and the precepts that I use to overcome those particular challenges. So here's what I know that we're pressed for time. So here's a couple of things I want to encourage people to do.
Okay.
One, do what I did. One, you need to get yourself a mentor or coach where your marriage is concerned. I don't care if your marriage is good right now. Your marriage can be better. If your marriage is struggling, it doesn't have to struggle anymore. As a matter of fact, you can connect with my wife and I. We'll be more than happy to talk to you guys. I told you it's transparency.
Right.
We've experienced everything that could have possibly gone wrong in a marriage with the exception of homosexuality.
Right.
So there's nothing that you're going to be able to present to me that's going to shock me.
Yeah.
That's going to shock me. And most of the time, the things that we've overcome are deal breakers for couples.
Right.
They're like, no, I'm out of here. I'm done. Well, biblically, let's talk a biblical thing. You may do something where you have a biblical out. But does that mean that you have to take it because it exists? If you really want the marriage, you can set a tone in which you can work things through. And what I had to do was I had to recognize that it was my job as the covenant chief executive officer. Covenant meaning in this marriage, because when you're in the marriage, it's different than just boyfriend and girlfriend. You don't have the ability to just walk away and just say that's it, even if it's just for financial reasons.
Right.
But for me, it was more of a contract and a commitment that I had to God and my wife. And even when I filed the papers, I had somebody say to me, I had the Spirit of the Lord say to me, did you do everything that you could possibly do to save this marriage? And I said initially, yeah, I did. He said, no, you didn't. And then when I thought about it, I hadn't done everything. I had done everything that I thought was necessary to do it, but that was flawed thinking, because I was who I was at that time based upon the things I did to get me to that point.
Right.
So I was doing what I thought was necessary instead of doing the prescribed method. So I had to learn what a husband was, and I had to start to grow and become the very thing that I desired to be or to operate at a prolific level in. And I take people through that journey, and I give them what they need, or men what they need, in order to get started. It's a foundational book. There's going to be a workbook. There's going to be a follow-up. And I also encourage women to get the book as well, because it may help them to be able to better understand the things that their husbands may be going through, or how their husbands may be thinking, or how they became who they are at this time.
How can the people get their hands on the Covenant CEO?
Okay, well, there's two ways that they can do it. They can go on Amazon, so it's available on Amazon in paperback, as well as on Kindle if you like the ebook. Also, you can order it on our website at transformbyfaith.live. That's transformbyfaith.live, and also Amazon. So you just put in the Covenant CEO on Amazon, it'll pull it right on up. You can go ahead and place your order.
Can I go old school tonight and just buy this hand to hand?
Of course you can. Of course you can. I'll go ahead.
I know you might send me to the website, and I'm sitting right here beside you. Say, "No, brother, you got."
No. I brought a couple of them.
Okay,
man.
awesome,
So,
awesome.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Listen, Bishop, man, that went by fast.
Yes, it did, man.
You know,
Josh.
and everyone, if you are aware, if you haven't been aware, you know, we're having Rebirth Live 3.0 on March the 25th at Revive. You can get your tickets at rebirthu.com/shop/live.events. That's a lot.
It is a lot right there.
So go to the Facebook page, and you'll see all of that right there. But this is just a sample of what you will be getting. Bishop Rob will be joining us
Yes,
live.
I will. Y'all need to come on out and check
At
us
Rebirth
out.
Live 3.0, man. Come and support. The brothers are going to be in there talking all of this right here and then some. And I'm just going to say this to you, man. And I said this to your wife before, too. I love talking to y'all. Now you, too, because this is our first time.
Right.
Just because you keep it real. There's no pretentiousness. There's no, I haven't made any mistakes. There's no, we're perfect now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I gravitate to and can relate to as a person who's still growing and evolving himself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that means a lot to me, and I like to, you know, connect with people like that. So I want to thank you for your words of wisdom, and I'm gonna come to y'all's church now. I feel like I gotta.
Okay, yeah.
I gotta come in. I ain't talking about the Saturday. I'm talking about the live joint on Sunday.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're gonna have to come to that.
Come sit before y'all. And
yeah, but I would like
get some of this word.
I would like to give one tidbit or a nugget, leaving with a nugget, if you will. My mentor, my spiritual father in the faith, Dr. Michael A. Freeman, he had a saying. He said, get away from those that have your problem and give to those that have your answer. So what's happening a lot of times is we're connecting with people and we're looking for counsel from individuals who have no success whatsoever in the areas that we're looking to come up in. As a matter of fact, they have the same challenges that we have, and we're seeking counsel from them. And what happens a lot of times is we're doing that because we're looking for someone to side with our position of error.
That is true.
So if you really want true help, if you really want to get beyond the challenges that you have, and I'm speaking to men, and also in spring of 2023, there's going to be the Covenant CEO podcast.
Okay, talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to be dealing with mentorship. We're going to be, I'm actually, my desire is I'm going to have actually believers who are actual CEOs coming on and talking about the connection between their business responsibilities and how that can filter over into their responsibilities in the household as husbands and men of God.
Right.
So it's going to be a thing where we're going to provide information to help men grow and mature. We're going to offer mentorship, and it's going to be for the kingdom man. Those who are interested in growing in the kingdom.
One more time, plug the church, how they can see you guys, how they can see you on the online or in person. Tell the people how to come and check y'all out.
Okay, yeah, you can check us out, as I stated, every first and third Saturday at 60 Fir Avenue, Bear, Delaware, 19701. You also can catch us live every single Sunday on Facebook Live. Just go to Facebook, put in Transformation Christian Worship Center. It'll take you to the page. We start every Saturday. We're in person is at 11 a.m. and every single Sunday it's It's at 11 a.m. as well. You can check us out on YouTube, and you can go to our website at transformedbyfaith.live. Let me say this to you. I was once the person that you needed to get away from because I had your problem, but I'm now the person you need to get with because I have your answer.
All right. Well, listen, you're catching me at the right time. Football season is over.
Yeah.
Because I typically don't go to church between September and February.
But see, here I got something for you.
But I'm back now, baby.
But I think about men where that's concerned too. So even when we have service on Sundays, our service will start at 11. You out by 12:30.
That's what man, I'd hug you right now, but I'm not going to get feminine up in here. Your wife already tried to have me looking into your eyes for the whole show.
Yeah, talking about sit over here.
Yeah, sit over there. Look, when you walked out, I said, what you want me to sit in here and look at him like this? Listen, Bishop Rob, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you. And also, let me ask you this. I'm just going to throw this out here now. In the month of June, we have, for every show in the month of June, we have men on because it's Father's Day month. We want to honor the men. We have the brothers on. Man, I got to have you come back for one of them shows.
Hey, just give me a call. Let's make it happen.
All right. We're going to make that happen. Jen, you heard it first, right? You got it. All right. Listen, y'all, thank you all for tuning in to the Rebirth tonight. Shay, baby, whatever's going on, feel better. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Love you, Shay.
Yes. Bishop Rob, again, thank you very much, and we will see you guys next Monday. Peace.
We've got something to share. We're really proud of our product and are excited to make it available on our website. Check it out now. We've got something to share. We're really proud of our product and are excited to make it available on our website. Check it out now.